All right, guys. Hey, today I'm having a really special guest from Copenhagen, or actually Ukraine. It's Jesper from Tieto, and he's a very well organized and very well structured person because he has prepared a workshop or a training about how to be a perfect IT consultant. And this is quite interesting because what I've noticed dealing with Danish clients is that they don't call engineers, software engineers that much. They prefer to have IT consultants. And this is what I would love to discuss today. What's the difference between being a regular coder, software developer, and IT consultant? What makes the guy more mature and more, I would say, advanced? Because for me, being consultant is higher than being a software developer. So Jesper, could you just please introduce yourself and tell us a little about this IT consultancy background?
Absolutely. Yeah, my name is Jesper Møller, and as you said, I'm from Denmark, but I actually live in Ukraine. So I've done so for about 5 years. I've had the pleasure to live both in Lviv in the west side, in Kharkiv in the west, in the east, and also in Kiev now where I am. So I've seen quite a lot in Ukraine, but I also had the teams in Poland. I've had teams in Macedonia. I've had teams in Pakistan and in India too. So I've been in the IT outsourcing and outstaffing market for some years. I work for Infopulse in Ukraine, and we are a subsidiary of Tieto. So here I'm working as a customer experience engagement manager. You can say bridging and helping the mother organization to build engagements with our Ukrainian developers and consultants and whatever we have. And you're right in the sense that quite often I get requests for a consultant. And that's because our mother organization will think they need a consultant because they're dealing with consultancy. And it's quite often that you have these IT companies and IT services companies in Scandinavia working with high-level consultants that you send out for an end customer to basically be a one-man army. And that's probably also where we will get into this discussion where you can say that what is the difference between someone who is an IT developer and a consultant. I don't think that necessarily that there's always a need for a consultancy mindset and a consultant like behavior, because sometimes you simply just need team members who are being well organized, managed, and led and mentored by a strong project manager on a project, a well-defined project that you can easily, you can say, run and lead and mentor and control in agile scrum fashion or whatever. But other times you need a consultancy driven and mindset type of person who understands the bigger picture in a different way. So that's kind of the intro from my side, I would say.
So do you think that pandemic has changed that? I mean, do you see the higher demand for consultants right now? I mean, from my perspective, for example, I see that more and more companies, they just want to go digital. They just want to build some online tools because everyone is sitting home. So somehow you order things online, so you have more e-commerce. So you want to access more services and more products through the network, so through the web. And my question is, do you think that it increases demands for consultants, people who can somehow digitalize the world and shape this part of the IT world?
I would put it in maybe in a little bit different way. I would say that the pandemic has of course changed how we work together. We are not sitting at the same office anymore. You cannot have a manager or a leader or a section manager, whatever it is, to sit together with people. And that means that people needs to be very self-driven, very independent. You need to be able to rely on that they're doing their tasks and that they're actually on time, with all these things. And I think that a lot of us have been positively surprised that people are actually up for the task. They're up for the challenges and actually producing really good results, even though there is a pandemic out there. And I would say it's even to the point that I sometimes feel that there's even a higher demand now than there used to be before the pandemic, because it seems as you also said, it seems that a lot of companies have understood that with the pandemic, COVID-19, they need to go digital first with many of their products and services. Because whereas maybe a restaurant or uh, some kind of sales unit or whatever could sell their services on the street or from a warehouse or where people would actually come and buy the products, now people need to buy it online in a higher degree. So companies need to go more digital first. Can also be, for instance, in terms of training, that you simply cannot have your people flying around in the world and do training. So maybe you introduce a virtual reality training or other kinds of e-learning or training where you involve more digitalized versions of those skills that your people or employees needs to have. And with that, you can say comes the need for everyone in the IT workforce, I think, Bob, because some of these services we are building and some of those things that are being requested are also quite complex. And with the complexity comes a need for maturity, a need for understanding of how to see the bigger picture. As an IT specialist, you should not just have eyes on the ball and eyes on your requirements. You should, I think, what is really important when you get your sort of perspective on the consultancy instead of being a specialist, is you should stop only asking what to also asking how and why. Because with the what, you are asking, what are the requirements? What am I supposed to build? But with the how and with the why, you are basically asking your customers, why are we building this? And how are you gonna put this into the market? So that is really important. I think that the specialists with the consultancy mindset get a much more holistic view on what they're building, why they're building, to whom they're building it. So that also means they are not just somebody who delivers what the customer wants, but they are also the customer's guardians. They are actually the ones who should say to their customers, hey guys, I think you are on the wrong path here. I know from my experience or from my skills or expertise that based on what you are trying to do, you might get into failure. The customer might say, I don't think you're right. You have to prove me wrong. Okay, if you're a great consultant, it's then your job to basically build that business case, to be able to communicate persuasively with your customers, so they understand this is not just some crazy ideas from an IT software developer. This is actually a business case that contains that vision, that mission, those values, that outcome that the customer wants to achieve. And the IT developer understands this and understands the bigger scope and bigger picture of things. And therefore, when they see that, for instance, this is not going to scale, this architecture will not get you to 200,000 end users or whatever, it's their duty as specialists and consultants to actually raise their voice and say, no, guys, this is not going to work. And I have strong opinions about this because I'm actually here as your guardian. I'm here to help you. The specialist would say, okay, he wants it like this, I'll give it him to like this. Then 5 months later down the road, the customer will come back and say, why the hell did you build this? And the guy will say, but I did exactly what you told me. And the customer said, yeah, but why didn't you do the right thing? And the specialist would say, what do you mean the right thing? I did exactly what you told me. But the consultant should say, I'm here to solve the customer's pain. I'm here to solve their problems. I'm here to pave the road for them for success. And for this, I need to understand their vision, mission, what they want to achieve. And when I see obstacles, it's my duty to raise the voice. That's what a consultant should do.
So this role actually is very responsible. I guess that if you enter the client's world and you are a newbie there, like you first time meet the guy, there's a huge responsibility, because if you say that I would do this way, because that's my experience, you get the trust from the client. But if this fails, whom to blame? I guess you're as a consultant, so either you are very certain about your ideas or confident, or you have some doubts, and then you present some idea, but you also mention the risks attached to the idea. And
Exactly.
I had this example, for example, we recently discussed rewriting the app from scratch for one of our clients. And his idea was, let's just build on top of the existing app. The app has issue. So some another layers of the code, because we are expanding and we cannot stop. And we said, but anyway, you will hit the wall at some point when you're gonna be very successful, and then the app will start crashing. Not because of our code, but the previous code and legacy or tech debts. So right now we recommend to just rewrite it or refactor it. So at least we will be ready for higher traffic. And they feel like, yes, I understand, but they feel like we want to charge them more. And I'm like, I can get off this project today. I mean, it's not that important to me. I just don't want to I just want to make sure that you get something feasible, reasonable, and in good quality. Because at the end of the day, if the app gonna crash, you won't blame the previous team. You will blame us, even if we prove that this is that the reason for crashing the app is the previous code, not our code, and so on and so on. So sometimes it's quite tricky. So
it's risky, but I think that's why you need to build a business case where you basically make it. I would say you need to, especially also to get the attention from the customer. If you are going out there with some ideas you have where you see that there is a potential risk, you better make sure to quantify it somehow. Meaning, if you continue on this path, these types of risks can happen. That can lead to, for instance, X number of more hours spent, or the block will be here, or, you cannot do this, you cannot do that. So you need to put some numbers to this, because that's what's going to basically raise their attention, because stakeholders will always be many. There's one that is concerned about the quality of the product, one who's concerned about the price of the product, one who's concerned about time to market, and one who's concerned about another thing. So basically, you need to be able to address this so that your customer stakeholder can bring this to his internal stakeholders and say, I actually received this from our delivery partners, and they are concerned about this, and they're raising these different issues. And then they might say, oh, that's something we need to address. So at least let's have a meeting, let's have a session where we basically discuss with these guys if they are right or wrong. It might be that they prove that we are wrong. Then that's cool, but at least they would certainly not, I would say, I'm sure they would not regret that you are at least trying to be their guardian. Because what if you're right and you actually understand that they are building something that will lead them to failure? Then they would, maybe be not so happy a few months later, saying, why didn't you tell us? I'm not an expert in Java or in Python or whatever. I don't know how to build this. That's why we hired you guys, and now we failed. So you simply need to take that challenge. But of course, it's also very dependent on what type of project you are working with, because in some cases you have very strong architects, you have very strong delivery organization on the client side, and that means that for them, they would know exactly what they're doing. And there you understand, okay, I'm not here to challenge them, but if you see something where you have concerns, it's important to raise your voice. And another thing that I find important myself is that you talked about the trust as well. And for me, I would say the even next level of the consultancy is to try and become a trusted advisor. And the trusted advisor, in my opinion, is a person. There's also, by the way, a really good book about this, David Meister, who wrote this book, The Trusted Advisor. For me, that's been a great book to understand what is going on when you are delivering something to a customer, the psychology between you and that customer. How can you build a long-term relations where you get further and further and further into the customer's sort of a business by showing good results, by showing you care, by showing you're a guardian, by always having their back and all this. Then they will start to come back to you because you become their trusted advisor, meaning that they certainly, it's a little bit like in the book they Jordan. Michael Jordan might come to you and say, hey, where do I get a good dentist? But what has a good dentist to do with his performance on the basketball field? But a trusted advisor is somebody that the customer will come to with all kinds of different things, simply because they know that the guy or girl delivers. They deliver basically good advices on your questions. And the more you can become that person who a customer will trust and ask all kinds of questions, the more you have reached the state of a trusted advisor. And then I would say you have achieved a strong position for yourself.
Okay. So last question, what would you advise to aspiring IT consultants? Where they should go? What should they learn? Are there any reasonable resources or
Yeah, I would say that,
go into some projects, but
yeah.
accept
No, but
where they
there's many things to learn, I would say, not just places to go, but things to learn. As you also mentioned yourself, I'm running actually this course on how to develop a consultant mindset. And there I'm dealing myself with four different things. Comprehension. The whole comprehension thing is about trying to understand. The first step is trying to understand what it means to be a consultant. Why is it different from, for instance, being a specialist? What are the tools you use? What are the methods you use? And these things. Then you also need to understand communication part. How do you communicate as a consultant versus, for instance, just a specialist? And also you need to have some competences to do this. And then in the last part, I'm also dealing with this trusted advisor, how you can become that. But I would say one of the things first is simply to start asking your customers about the vision and mission and goals that they are going to achieve. Who are the end users? What are they supposed to do with the software or the services or whatever it is? How are they supposed to use it? What is your market like? What challenge do you see out there? Do you have some competitors who are doing this and that? What have you tried before that worked? What have you tried that didn't work? Who are you? Who are your stakeholders in this? If you can get an understanding of this, at least you are getting deeper into understanding of the client's business. That's one thing I think is a kind of a major start. And then I would say you need to be proactive. It's easy to say because some people are proactive just in their personality. Some people are not proactive necessarily. They have to be taught how to be proactive. They have to really strive how to understand that instead of sitting and waiting for something to happen, being reactive, waiting for something to happen, you sometimes have to go out there and ask. So that means you need to start maybe understanding who are the people on the client side, not just your delivery owner on customer side, but maybe you should start to speak with some more people, because it might be that the delivery owner is actually, maybe he or she lacks some information, and you understand that by speaking with another person you get that, and then you understand that the delivery owner is into failure. But you don't understand it because by speaking only with that person, you're not getting it. So I would say go out there and be curious and be ready to discuss with people. But then I would say, to come back to your question, where are the resources for this? And I would say they're simply out there, all of it. I mean, you can find so many YouTube videos about this, so many great internet websites that explain this about the Minto principle from McKinsey or whatever it is. I mean, so many companies are showing how you can do this in a good way. So I think it's just about yeah, doing it.
All right. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for sharing the knowledge. I hope that people who will listen to this podcast and video will be able to get in touch with you to ask more questions, especially about the IT consultancy and your course. So we will link to the course in the video and audio, because it's going to be on Spotify. So it was great hosting you. Thank you, Jesper. And hopefully,
thank you very much.
Time.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.